Thanks. I'll keep it short and sweet, I think. It's probably best. So I'm going to be talking about Winter Sun, which is a projection mapping commission. It's a recent commission. It's actually launching this winter from October. And it's a project that's coordinated by Cork City Council with the National Sculpture Factory. And basically, to contextualise it, I'm going to talk about my own practice, my own digital media practice specifically. I'll talk a little bit about the commissioning process, the process of making the work, and then I'll show a very short preview of the work itself. Now, that comes with the caveat that it's launching in October. Please also come back in October to see it in real life, because this will be a sort of just a very small preview of the actual work itself. So, okay. So my name is Elinor O'Donovan. I am a visual artist based in Cork, based up in Sample Studios. I sort of use a broad range of media in my practice, including film, sculpture, installation, digital media. And the digital media that I kind of talk about is digital collage. So working in Photoshop with images that are kind of freely available on the internet on these sort of license-free, royalty-free databases of images. Digital collage is the kind of main digital media that I would use. So for example, here I've got an example of a digital collage. This is called Constellation. It would have taken these sort of stock photographs from the internet and kind of mashed them up into an image. The funny thing is they kind of look a little bit artificially generated, but it's not. It's me. I'm doing the work. So yeah, I'm working in Photoshop with these license-free photos. The funny thing is, with the end result of these digital collages, they often result in printed matter. So apart from if you're seeing it on a screen, like on my website or on social media, they do kind of generally end up as prints or yeah, sort of like large-scale prints in a gallery space. I've kind of done a sort of this kind of practice for a few years. So, for example, the image on the left is a work that was commissioned by Cork Film Festival. It's called Crashers. The idea behind this work is that it was kind of thinking about the female gaze in cinema, because Cork Film Festival basically had a female visions program of films by female directors, and this was kind of my way of maybe visualizing what I thought about the female gaze. So in this instance, the idea being that the female directors show up to the party whether or not they were invited. On the right, there's a recent collage which makes use of the internet's many cat photos, and inspired by my own cat. And so I'm interested in, I guess, in now using digital collage in a kind of playful, humorous way, but also maybe invoking a bit more thoughtfulness and a bit more sort of personalness to the work itself. So, for example, this one here is a digital collage that I made this year called New Zodiac for My Late 20s. It's inspired by a work in the Imma collection called A Map of the Sky, including Beetlejuice and a Pecan by the Cherokee artist Jimmy Durham. So this, for example, was me kind of reflecting on my late 20s a little bit, maybe in a romantic way, because it's not all oysters and glasses of wine, but I included the pecan as well as a nod to the Jimmy Durham work. So I guess this is just to kind of give a context to the recent commission. I do work digitally, but the commission to make a moving image work, which I'll kind of talk about now in a bit, was kind of new because a lot of the images that I had made were sort of static collages, and so working with moving image would have been a sort of a departure from that. Oh yeah, and just to mention as well, like in terms of like the printed matter, this would have been something that came into my practice in recent years, particularly during COVID lockdowns. I was commissioned by a Cork company called Notes to Cork to do a series of billboards around the city, and the idea of this commission was kind of sort of spread a bit of humour and positivity during a time when we couldn't leave our sort of 5-kilometre radius of our homes. And so when I think about like the digital media aspect of my practice, often by using Photoshop and by using these kind of techniques, I think that I'm kind of maybe referencing digital culture and internet culture like memes, but not doing it in a sort of obliquely way. Like, it's still very important to me that I maintain a kind of personal artistic aesthetic, if that makes sense. So even though I said this moving image is kind of a departure from my sort of static digital collage work, I did recently make a film. This film, The Immeasurable Grief of the Prawn, was premiered at Cork Film Festival last year. So it did give a bit more experience to me when I took on this moving image commission. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about the Island City Sculpture Trail. I'm sure everyone who's in Cork, or even not from Cork, might have come across this already. So it's a really ambitious series of public works that were commissioned by Cork City Council and the National Sculpture Factory and completely funded by Fáilte Ireland. So the emphasis is about animating the public realm and across these 5 sites in Cork City. One of the sites is the Triskel Christchurch on South Main Street, and that has been the home to projection mapping works. So, for example, last winter, the artist Brian Kenny from Lightscape Studio had his work Tempus Futurum up there, and that was the first commission for that site. So I'm the second commission. I'm coming in now this winter, and my work will be shown sort of from October time. So I guess just to maybe, I don't know if this is particularly interesting, it's interesting to me as an artist, but the kind of commissioning process of how this work gets made and gets put into the public realm in the first place. So Cork City Council and the National Sculpture Factory did an open call selection process for the Triskel Christchurch site. So in July last year, I responded to the open call process with encouragement from Evie from Sample Studios, responding to the criteria that they had set, that you have to propose a 10-minute long moving image artwork, has to be able to loop. The idea should complement the location of the Triskel Christchurch building, and it should be a projection mapping work. So you have to kind of account for all the kind of technical bits that come with that. They made their selections in August. In September, I was filming the work. October to November last year, I was editing it. And then April this year, when Brian Kenny's own work on the Triskel site came down, we got to do a little test and just make sure that everything was kind of working. Okay, so the work that I have made is called Winter Sun, and this is a mock-up image that I would have proposed initially, and it's a tribute to one of my favourite places in Cork, which is Bell's Field at the top of Patrick's Hill. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's got a beautiful vista of Cork City. You might have seen it in like the TV show Young Offenders. They kind of love to film up there because it's such a gorgeous, dramatic view of Cork. And I live quite close to there. I kind of go there quite often. And I guess what always strikes me when I go there is, I guess it appeals to me in the way that I think of Cork as this stage or this setting for thousands of people's own personal epics. So everyone's own stories are coinciding on the same stage at the same time. And I guess I wanted to make a work that kind of spoke to that a little bit, reflecting on also the kind of like just all the different people that you do see in Cork. Cork from the time of the Triskel Christchurch, you know, to now, it's always been a port city. It's always reflected a lot of cultural diversity, and I wanted that to be reflected in the work as well. So it's a 10-minute long looped moving image work. In it there are 12 actors who kind of come across this green field, and they kind of maybe ambiently enjoy the setting sun, and they come and go, and it's kind of a very sort of relaxed interpretation of what it is actually like to go up to the top of Patrick's Hill and look out over the city on a lovely summer evening. It was really inspired, actually, when I was researching that location and thinking about it. I came across this painting in the Crawford Art Gallery's collection, which is by the artist John Butts, The View of Cork from Audley Place. It was painted about 20 years after the Triskel Christchurch was built, so it really, I think, speaks to the idea that this view has been capturing people's imaginations for, you know, hundreds of years. What I particularly love about the painting is that there's kind of a pink tint to the sky. I think that kind of to me suggests anyway that it's also a sunset, or that it's also there at that kind of romantic time of day. I'm not sure if it's very clear in the image, but in the foreground there's kind of two figures and a little dog. So that was also important to me to do a nod to the painting. When I was making the own work, I included two people and a little dog as well. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to show you some behind-the-scenes photographs. So the filming of the work took place across one weekend in September last year in Sample Studios. I just sort of threw in the little close-up picture from the John Butts painting there on the left to sort of say, look, I put the dog in. But what was really great is I did the casting for this moving image work, again, through an open call selection process, and I was really excited that the kind of, I was able to capture a slice of the diversity that we see in Cork anyway. So there was a lot of interest from local people in terms of being in the work, and I was able to kind of get a sort of slice of, you know, there was a young family interested, you know, like older residents, international students, you know, people living in emergency accommodation. Lots of people came forward and wanted to be involved, which was really encouraging to me. So I worked on this project with the filming, did the filming with Jack Desmond, who is a filmmaker from Cork. He would have worked with me on the film that I made last year. So it was great to work with him again, and he's very much an expert in the areas that I lack. So it's we make a great team. So I'm really glad to have the opportunity to show off that a lot of work went into the actual production of this work. So the image on the left is the project room in Sample Studios. The artists who have a studio there are able to kind of rent out. And in one evening, myself and a friend of mine turned the image in the left to the image on the right. So we turned it into a complete green screen studio. So it involved a lot of painting and rolling out those big rolls of paper. But I'm glad to have the audience here that I can show you, look, I did this. Because a lot of the work that goes into these kind of things, you maybe don't get to see this kind of thing. The CGI aspect of the work was actually done by another artist, so Bassam Al-Saba, who's an incredible digital media artist in his own right. I commissioned him to make the kind of computer-generated elements, so it would be the sort of the sun setting and the background, and then the green screen elements of the people were kind of superimposed on top of that. So from October to November, it was a lot of computer-based work, me working in After Effects, compiling all of the footage of the different groups of people and making the work. So I didn't mention this actually, but so Brian Kenny and Lightscape were the artists responsible for the first projection mapping commission at the Triskel. When I was putting together my proposal for the Triskel, because I'm not a projection mapping expert, I wanted to hire someone and work with someone who is, and I just happened to come across Brian Kenny and Lightscape, and so I commissioned him to work with me as the kind of projection mapping expert, to kind of look after how do you take this, you know, 300-year-old building and get it into a computer and make the video so that it kind of adheres to the different elements of the building. So I was very relieved to be able to hand that over to someone who really knew what they were doing. So Brian basically furnished me with the graphic elements and a template that I could work with when I was kind of putting together the actual moving image work itself. So I wonder, is this the video? Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so I'm going to show a very short preview of the work. I hope you can see it with the light. And again, with the caveat that please come and see it when it's actually on the building in October. So there's no sound, obviously, because it's moving image. It's a projection mapping work for a public building, so there's no need for sound. Here I had a group of international students, a group of French girls who were really excited to be a part of the work. So they're the group who are sitting on the picnic blanket. I hope that's clear. We had a young guy come in and be our delivery driver who was coming in to take a break, because I wanted it to reflect actually, you know, if I go up to Bellsfield, who are the people that I see there? And I go there quite regularly. There's a young guy in the bottom left who's playing the guitar. I also put myself in it because, you know, why not? You always need more bodies, I guess. And so I wanted it to reflect the communal enjoyment of the space that we share, that everyone is kind of, even though in their different walks of life, in their different places in the public space, that we're all kind of sharing this public space, this communal act of like sun worship, basically. Okay, so again, sneak peek behind the scenes. April this year, when Brian's work was coming down, we got to test mine. Obviously, there's kind of kinks that need to be ironed out, but we were able to kind of look at what it'll look like on the building so that when October comes around, it'll be able to kind of make the most of the incredible building and the sort of different aspects of the facade of the building. Yeah, it's going up in October. That's kind of it. While I have a captive audience, I also want to plug the 2 other things that I have going on this week in Cork Midsummer Festival. So obviously you can look forward to this in October, but this week I was also commissioned by the Crawford Art Gallery to make a ping pong table for their exhibition Whiff Waff is Playing at My Gaff, which is opening tonight. Unfortunately coincides with the exhibition launch in the Lord Mayor's Pavilion, but it will be there for the next few weeks of Cork Midsummer Festival. So please go in, play some ping pong on the table that I made, because they're all playable, and enjoy it. And then the other thing for Cork Midsummer is that I have put together a radio station. So a pop-up radio station is taking place in a test site down on the Coal Quay. It's called Radio Solstice. You can listen to it online. Our launch is tonight, again, from 7 until 10 p.m. So you can listen online or call into us at Plugged tonight, and then from test site for the next 2 weeks. And that's it. That's all I have.